Golden Flake from Father Joe Arempur SDB.
The flake of the day. A spoonful of honey attracts more bees than a barrel full of vinegar. You may be wondering why the followers of Don Bosco are called Salesians. You know, there was a saintly bishop in Geneva known as St. Francis de Sales. He was so gentle and kind that he brought many people to God. The secret of his success was his loving kindness. He was so patient, kind, and loving. When Don Bosco started working for the poor boys of Turin, he realized that the only way to get into their hearts was through love and kindness. In fact, this became the secret of his success in his ministry. Later, the same principle became one of the three pillars of his education system, known as the preventive system. The other two pillars were reason and God. The other day, when I started taking some natural medication to build up my immunity against the pandemic, a close friend of mine brought me 2 bottles of good honey. And I started taking a spoonful of honey daily. But today, on the 24th of January, the feast of St. Francis de Sales, this statement of his struck me. A spoon full of honey attracts more bees than a barrel full of vinegar. The secret of the success of Don Bosco and his education system was exactly this element in his approach, namely loving kindness. The process of making money got my attention. Bees go to millions of flowers to gather nectar to produce the honey. The Times of India dated February 7, 2010 states, a bee taps 2 million flowers and flies 50,000 miles, that is 80,000 kilometers, to make 1 pound, 454 grams of honey, traveling more than twice around the world to gather it. What a focus, what a passion, and what a perseverance. Albert Einstein is supposed to have said, if the bee disappears from the surface of the earth, man would have no more than 4 years left to live. However, there is no good evidence that Albert Einstein actually said this. In fact, he most assuredly did not. Besides, this quote surfaced for the first time in the early 1990s, long after Einstein's death. Albert, genius though he was a physicist, not an entomologist. We are not even entering into the discussion how far human life depends on bee pollination. The lessons we draw from these statements, however exaggerated they may be, are significant. When the bees draw out the nectar, the flower is not destroyed. Not only, the flower continues to produce the nectar and share it with the bees. From a pastoral and educative perspective, it is insightful to note that the flower is not destroyed. On the other hand, it continues to produce more and more of nectar. A further insight is that the flowers may be of different kinds. According to our perspective, some of them may be beautiful, some big, some small, some ugly, some fragrant, some sweet, some even bitter. But at the end of it all, the honey is sweet and it attracts. When students and children are accompanied with this attitude by parents and teachers, there is no boy or girl called a bad boy or a bad girl. It all depends on the art and the skill with which we deal with the young. This again depends on our belief and the attitude with which we educate or form the young. A further reflection on the activity of the bees emphasizes the importance of hard work and the patience with which these bees continue to gather the nectar to make their honey comb. As stated earlier, a bee may have to go to thousands of flowers to gather a small amount of nectar. The message for the parents and educators is that patience and perseverance play a vital role in a fruitful accompaniment of the young in their journey towards maturity. The paradigm of spare the rod and spoil the child is being replaced today with unconditional love in educating the child. If we understand that education is drawing out or bringing forth or developing the God-given abilities in the child to their full realization, then we realize that it is possible only by spontaneous, happy, and willing response from the child. Such a response is elicited when the parents and the educators deal with the child with loving kindness. Modern psychology would term it a new word called the synergy point in the child. What do you understand by synergy? If synergy is understood as the additional energy released when a person is posed with extraordinary motivating factors, then the educators would do well if they learn the art and the skill of identifying this synergy point in the child and facilitate its flow. The triggering point is in creating in the child the awareness of the extraordinary motivating factors in his or her life. And you know, Don Bosco was wise enough to recognize this ultimate motivating factor, which is love. And love is God. Hence, the three pillars of this approach are reason, love, and God.